Just 12 years ago, researchers discovered a mathematical error in the official vitamin D recommendations. The correction showed that instead of 600 IUs per day, the actual number should be 8,895 IUs per day. That's not a typo. That's a 15-fold differences. And here's the disturbing part. To this day, that correction has never been officially adopted. The guidelines still say 600 IUs per day. But now, most people hear this and think, okay, maybe they're just being cautious. Maybe they need more time to review it. But here's what everyone misses. This isn't about caution. This isn't about waiting for more studies. The mass actually was recalculated using the exact same data that the Institute of Medicine used to set the original recommendations. And yet, nothing changed. But here's what's really going on. And this is going to shift how you think about vitamin D forever. The 600 IUs recommendation was never designed to optimize your health. It was designed to prevent rickets, a bone disease from the 1800s. That's it. The entire system is calibrated to keep your bones from crumbling, not to keep your immune system strong, not to prevent cancer, not to regulate your mood or metabolism, just your bones. I'm Dr. Max, and I've been a physical therapist and medical researcher for over a decade. I see patients every single week who are struggling with chronic pain, depression, and metabolic disorders and autoimmune conditions. And when we test their vitamin D levels, they're deficient. Every single time when I tell them your vitamin D is low, they say, but my doctor said I'm fine. I'm taking the recommended doses. Today, I'm breaking down exactly what happened with the vitamin D mass error, why it's never been corrected, and more importantly, the 5 signs your body is screaming for more vitamin D and the exact protocol to fix it without toxicity. Let's dive in. Alright, before we get into the institutional failure, let me show you what happens when your vitamin D is chronically low, because most people don't connect their symptoms to vitamin D deficiency. First of all, chronic fatigue and muscle weaknesses. Your muscles need vitamin D to contract properly. When you're deficient, your mitochondria, the energy factories in your cells, don't function efficiently. You feel tired all the time, your workouts suffer, and simple tasks feel exhausting. The second one is depression and mood disorders. Vitamin D regulates serotonin production in your brain. Low vitamin D means low serotonin, which means your mood crashes. This is why seasonal affective disorders spikes in winter when sun exposure drops. Third one is frequent infections. Your immune cells have vitamin D receptors. When you're deficient, your T cells and macrophages cannot activate it properly. You catch every colds, every flus, every bug that goes around. And the fourth one is brain fog and cognitive declines. Vitamin D protects neurons and supports neuroplasticity. And without it, your memory suffers, your focus drops, and long-term, your risk of dementia increases. The fifth one is weight gain and metabolic dysfunctions. Vitamin D regulates insulin sensitivity. When you're deficient, your cells become insulin resistant. Your blood sugars spike and fat storage increases, especially around your waist and abdomen. Now, if you're experiencing even 2 of these symptoms, there is a high chance your vitamin D is inadequate. But here's when it gets frustrating. You go to a doctor, they test your levels, and they say you're at 25 nanograms per milliliter. That's the problem. And this is where the mass error comes in. In the 1990s and early 2000s, the Institute of Medicine, now called the National Academy of Medicine, set the recommended daily allowance for vitamin D at 600 IUs for adults. They based this on studies looking at bone health and calcium absorptions. Their goal was completely simple: to prevent rickets and osteomalacia. But here's where the error happened. When they analyzed the data, they didn't look at individual responses. They actually looked at population averages. It's like averaging test scores from 30 classrooms and assuming every student passed, when in reality, half of the class is still failing. In 2014, just 12 years ago, 2 researchers reanalyzed the exact same data the Institute of Medicine used, and they found something shocking. The math was wrong. The statistical model used by the IOM system was calculating group averages, not for individual needs. When corrected for individual variability, the number was not 600 IUs, it was actually 8,895 IUs per day. This wasn't a small adjustment, this was a 15-fold errors, and this recalculation was independently verified by other research teams. Yet to this day, the official recommendation hasn't changed. You might thinking, okay, but maybe they're being cautious, maybe they need more time to fix it. But here's the issue, if this was truly just a mathematical mistake, you'd expect a correction, right? You'd expect the Institute of Medicine to say, oops, we made an error, here's the updated guidance. But that's not what happened. Instead, they doubled it down. They defended the 600 IUs number. They said the recalculation was flawed. They insisted that 600 IUs was still appropriate, and this is where it stops looking like a mistake and starts looking like a structural decision. Let me be very clear about something. Vitamin D is not just for your bones. That's the outdated framework that keeps people trapped in deficiency. Vitamin D is a hormone. It regulates over 2,000 genes in your body. It controls immune function, inflammation, cell growth, neurotransmitter production, and metabolic processes. Every single cell in your body has vitamin D receptors. Your brain, your heart, your muscles, your pancreas, all of them need vitamin D to do their function properly. When your vitamin D is low, here's what happens. Your immune system becomes hyperactive or suppressed, leading to autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, and Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Your cancer risk increases. Vitamin D regulates cell division and apoptosis, programmed cell death, and without enough vitamin D, abnormal cells don't die off properly. Studies show that adequate vitamin D levels reduce the risk of colon, breast, and prostate cancer by up to 50%. Your cardiovascular risk skyrockets. Vitamin D regulates blood pressure by controlling renin, a hormone that constricts blood vessels. Low vitamin D means high blood pressure, arterial stiffness, and increased risk of heart attack and strokes. Your metabolic function collapses. Vitamin D improves insulin sensitivity, and without it, you develop insulin resistance, prediabetes, and type 2 diabetes, and fatty liver diseases. So, when the Institute of Medicine says 600 IUs is enough, they're only talking about preventing rickets. They're ignoring everything else vitamin D does. And here's the kicker. Most adults need around 4,000 IUs to 800 IUs per day just to maintain their blood levels of 50 to 80 nanograms per milliliter, the range where you actually see protective effects against diseases. But if you're only taking 600 IUs, your blood levels will hover around 20 to 30 nanograms per milliliter. That's enough to keep your bones from breaking only, but it's nowhere near enough to optimize your immune function, metabolic health, or disease prevention. Now, let's talk about why this hasn't been corrected, and this is where the institutional conflict becomes clear. The National Academy of Medicine, formerly the Institute of Medicine, is not a government agency. It's a private organization. They receive funding from the government and also receive millions of dollars from private donors, including food corporations and industry groups. Before releasing their pain management guidelines, the ones that encouraged wider opioid prescribing, they received over $19 million from opioid manufacturers, including the Sackler family who owned Purdue Pharma. They've also received funding from Coca-Cola, Nestle, Pepsi-Cola, and the other major food companies. These are the same organizations that benefit from keeping the population metabolically unhealthy. Now, I'm not saying there is a direct conspiracy theory to keep vitamin D recommendations low, but I'm saying there is a structural incentive to avoid recommending something that could reduce pharmaceutical dependency. Think about it. If the majority of the population optimized their vitamin D levels, you'd see a massive reduction in chronic diseases, fewer autoimmune diseases, fewer antidepressants, and fewer diabetes medications, fewer blood pressure drops. That's billions of dollars in lost revenue. So when the mass error was exposed in 2014, there was no incentive to correct it. The system that created the error is the same system that benefits it from leaving it uncorrected. Alright, so what do you actually do about this? First, get tested. Ask your doctor for a 25-hydroxy vitamin D blood test. This measures the inactive form of vitamin D in your blood, which is a storage form, and you want your level to be between 50 to 80 nanograms per milliliter, not the sufficient amount of 20 nanograms per milliliter that most labs use as a cutoff. Second, supplement intelligently. If you're deficient, which most people are, start with 4,000 to 5,000 IUs of vitamin D3 per day. If you are significantly deficient, you might need 8,000 to 10,000 IUs for a few months to build up your levels, then drop to a maintained doses. And third, take vitamin K2 with your vitamin D3. Vitamin D increases calcium absorption, and vitamin K2 directs calcium into your bones instead of your arteries. And without vitamin K2, excess calcium can build up in your blood and soft tissues, which is the main concern with vitamin D supplementation. And the first one is take magnesium. Vitamin D cannot activate in your body without magnesium. Most people are deficient in magnesium too, so supplement yourself with 300 to 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate daily. The number 5 is get sun exposure when possible. Your skin produces vitamin D when exposed to UVB rays. In the summer, 15 to 20 minutes of midday sun on your arms and legs can generate almost 10,000 to 20,000 IUs of vitamin D. But in the winter, or if you live far from the equator, supplementation is essential for you. And here's the toxicity concern that people always bring up. They generally ask, but isn't too much vitamin D dangerous? Yes, it is, but the threshold for toxicity is extremely high. You'd have to take over 40,000 IUs per day for months to develop the risk of hyperglycemia, the only real toxic effect of vitamin D. And even then, the solution is simple. Stop supplementing, increase water intake, and the calcium levels will normalize. The risk of deficiency is far greater than the risk of toxicity. And that's what the 600 IUs recommendation ignores. Alright, let's lock this in. The vitamin D recommendation of 600 IUs per day is based on a mathematical error that was corrected in 2014. The real number is closer to 8,895 IUs for individual needs, but the official guidelines have never been updated. This isn't just about bones actually. Vitamin D regulates your immune system, your metabolism, your brain, your cardiovascular system, and also your cancer risks. When you're deficient, which most people are, you're at higher risk of chronic diseases, depression, infections, and metabolic dysfunctions. The system that created the error doesn't want to fix it because there is no financial incentive to keep people healthy. But you don't need to wait for the guidelines to change. You can test your levels, supplement properly, and optimize your health right now. If this video gave you a new perspective on vitamin D, hit that like button. And if you know someone who's struggling with fatigue, depression, or chronic illnesses, send this video to them. This information could genuinely change their lives. I'm Dr. Max, and until the next time, take control of yourself because no institution is going to do it for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.